But I wanted to begin with a story that you've all heard 100 times. The minute I start it, you're going to know that you've heard it, but it really bears repeating as a bridge between the song and what I want to say today. There was a great storm out on the ocean. The winds were blowing, and the waves were crashing, and big giant waves came up, and the high tide dumped all the starfish along the coast. And then the tide went back out, leaving all the starfish on the sand to die. And a little girl, I'm already standing up, a little girl was walking along the shore, and she'd pick one up and she'd toss it back into the ocean. And she'd walk a couple more steps. She'd pick another one up and she'd throw it out to the ocean. And there was an old codger, an old guy that was walking the other direction, coming the other way. And he looked at the little girl and he said, "Little girl, what are you doing? Look there's miles and miles and miles of starfish. Look at all of them. You can't possibly make a difference here." And the little girl looked up at the old guy with a smile, and then she bent down and she picked up another one, and she threw it into the ocean, and she said, "I made a difference to that one." Breathe that in. I made a difference to that one. So you've heard the story, but doesn't it always feel good? And it's so true. And I think now, more than ever in the history of the planet, certainly our country, we need to just be willing to make a difference. And I want us to know together today that there are absolutely no small tasks. There are no small needs. There is just simple acts of kindness that are expressed with tremendous love, with incredible love. The recognition that I am someone and that you are someone. And we might need each other at any given moment in our life. We might need each other. That's the power of community. But community that stays within these walls, it's not really beneficial for the world. That community and that sense and what we teach and the principles must go out these doors and be lived, even when you're down on your knees and life isn't working. Let us remember that seemingly insignificant acts of service are a huge part of individual and planetary transformation. Yes? There's some phrases that I often speak from this platform that you've heard me say a lot, but I'm going to repeat them again today because they're so vitally important in this time in history. One of them is, we belong to each other. Say that with me. We belong. That's a ripoff. I stole it from Mother Teresa. But the reality is that is true. You also hear me say a lot from this platform that prayer is the highest form of service. Say that with me. Prayer is the... And I got that backwards. Service is the highest form of prayer. Together, service is the highest. And we're all seeking God. We're seeking this light. We're seeking this love. We're seeking this infinite power known by 1,000 names. Service is the highest form of knowing that power, of knowing God. Together, service is the highest form of knowing God. Recognizing that I am somebody and getting busy using my hands, my feet, my wisdom, my life, my resources to help another person is actually finding God. It is a temple, it is a sanctuary, it is a synagogue. It is why we are on earth. Yes? Another phrase I use, not nearly as nice, is talk is cheap. Talk is cheap. Say that with me. I'll hint those phrases as I go through the service today. These phrases come from having spent a great deal of time reading the writings of great spiritual masters, great philosophers throughout time, and spending time in their thoughts and their wisdom, but also scientists. I'm going to talk about science a little bit today, and I'm going to talk about people like Ram Dass. Anybody know the name Ram Dass? I hope you do. If you don't, go get a book. And he's the first one that said it, but it's been ripped off by 1,000 people. We're all just walking each other home. Say that. We're all just walking each other home. We're doing it one step, one breath, one heartbeat, and one act of kindness at a time. There's a cumulative building of energy. One act, one starfish, one moment, one kindness, one love at a time. We're making our way back home. I want you to consider today that all the religions that we follow, all the man-made, human-made religions that we follow, they're superseded by the ultimate religion on earth. And they all carry this within the fabric of their doctrine and their dogma. But there's one that supersedes all of the religions. One that says through service to each other, we find fulfillment. Through service to each other, we actually heal ourselves. And through service to each other, we actually find that divine essence and we make our way home. The home that we're all looking for. That sense of connection and oneness and belonging. That service. Not Christianity, Islam, or Judaism, or Buddhism. Those are wonderful tools pointing us in the direction of home. But at the end of the day, how I helped your life be better and how you helped another person's life be better is the journey home. It is the pathway and the portal. There's many ways to serve. We say all the time, many paths, one God. What if that didn't mean many religions, one God? What if it meant many ways to serve one God? In essence, that we're all getting home together today. From ancient scriptures to modern psychology, the act of serving has been held up as a sacred path. The Hindu people call it seva, sacred service. The Sikh people call it the same thing, seva, sacred service. But here's what philosopher Albert Schweitzer had to say. He puts it better than I ever could. Let's read this together. The purpose of human life is to serve, to show compassion and the will to help others. There is no higher religion than human service. To work for the common good is the greatest creed. Breathe that in for a minute. What if beyond all our dogmas and doctrines and belief systems, that was why we were on earth? It is why we're on earth. Sometimes the religions get in the way. But when I know when we're down on our knees, nobody's asking, what religion do you belong to? Do you need help? What religion do you belong to? Or who did you vote for? No, I'm here because you are a fellow human, a fellow spiritual being, and I want to help. You are someone. You are someone. No matter how you think, no matter how you feel, or what doctrine you follow, you are someone, and I am someone. And this someone can make a difference in your life. Service transcends any one of our tradition or belief systems. It's a universal expression of love in action. Say that with me. Love in action. Love in action. Again. Love in action. And one last time, love in action. Love in action is prayers with feet and hands. It is meditation in overalls and work gloves. It is meditation in action. It is oneness in motion. It is theology getting down to earth and remembering we belong to each other and that through service, I know God. I find God. It's a bit of a paradox, though, isn't it? You know, it's counterintuitive to the human ego. The human ego is going to go, yeah, but. It's limited. By serving others, I serve the whole, and I contribute to something greater than myself. And in the serving itself, I find myself. That doesn't make sense. I'm going to find the greater capacity to know the light of my own being by helping somebody else find the light in their being. That doesn't make any sense to the ego, but it makes all the spiritual sense in the world. But don't take my word for it. Let's go to another great thinker, Gandhi. What did Gandhi have to say about it? Together, the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. For Gandhi, serving others is not merely a duty. It is not merely an obligation. I'm not up here preaching obligation. I'm offering you a path to find the infinite presence of God. It's the very path to enlightenment. Service is the very path. Take Gandhi's word for it. In giving to others, we find ourselves. Service becomes not just an obligation, but a spiritual practice. It's in all of the world religions. You can find it. Take care of each other. It's a way to dissolve the human ego. It's all about me, and New Thought has a tendency to create monsters. It's all about me. It's not about me. It's about us. And when I get that, I find myself. Isn't that a paradox? When I make it about us, I find myself, the greater part of myself, and realize my oneness with the people of the earth. I'm going to share a little bit about my life. When I was a teenager, I grew up my whole life till I got out of the house in an environment that did not teach service. Many of you have the same kind of family. No, you take care of your own. You take care of your own. Do not go outside because there's a limited amount of money. There's a limited amount of time. And so we just took care of ourselves in our little family home. And as a teenager, many who I've shared this story before, I was consumed with anxiety. I had ulcers in middle school. I was in speech therapy in high school. I was consumed with a hungry ghost syndrome, the Buddhists would say, to try and fill the hole that was in my heart. And I didn't understand what was going on. It didn't make sense to me, but life seemed meaningless. And I did a lot of things, and I had a lot of friends, and we did a lot of activities, but there was something missing. And then I met somebody who introduced me to the foster care system. And a group home. My wife and I ran a group home for abused children. Kids who had been tossed aside and thrown away. They're beyond help. And they ended up in our house. And the hole that I had been carrying around for 22 years suddenly began to be filled. And it had nothing to do with getting more. It had nothing, they did not pay well. Let me tell you, my pocketbook was not being full taking care of children. But what got full was my heart, my spirit. And there was a sense of purpose to life that began to fill the holes that I could not fill any other way. I began to realize that these children were as much there for me as I was for them. As the more I gave to them, the more I was filled up, and it became my mission to be a father to somebody else's child. And to love them so much that the throwaway people, the throwaway kids became citizens who knew their value, who knew their worth, who knew that they deserved respect. It's the same conversation I had with James, who that song was written for. I began to feel like I was somebody, and I could make a difference, and I had a purpose on life, is to let one person come into my experience whose life was forever changed for the better. That was the beginning of ministry. Now, back when I was 22 or 23, never would I thought I'd be sitting here leading a church. That was just not part of the vision. My ministry began with holding a child in their dark night of the soul and said, you have value. You're important. You are necessary. It brought purpose. It brought meaning. It brought incredible joy. And it brought incredible fulfillment. And that doesn't make any sense. I gave more. Didn't make a lot of money, but I gave more. I gave more. And I gave more. I became more. As we give more, we become more. Say that with me. As we give more, we become more. And what's wonderful and beautiful about that is that awareness allows me to go back home to my family and infect them. It's contagious. Love and joy and service are contagious. And that paradigm that was in my family has shifted. And I heard that my sisters were going out and volunteering, doing things for people outside of the family unit. We need to be the change we want to see, because this is what life is asking of us. Let me go to the experts again. Martin Luther King Jr., one of my heroes. Let's read what he had to say. Life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? The good that we seek, the relationship with the infinite, the oneness that we seek is on the other side of our service. People come to my office all the time and they say, I need more love, I need more gratitude, I need more this, I need more that. I said, go give more of it away. And they look at me like, huh? That doesn't make sense. It does not make sense to the human ego. But if you want more love, go give more love away. You want more gratitude and kindness in your life, go be more grateful. Go be more kind. But don't do it to get. This is a giving law. If you are giving to get, you're killing the phrase. You're killing the principle. You're killing the law. You give just because you give. And when you give to another human being and make their life a little bit better, it affects the whole. Because the universe begins to expand. Because that person then networked spirituality. I'm kind to Julie. Julie's kind to Ted. Ted is kind to Bob. Bob is kinder to Nancy. And there's an exponential increase. The whole begins to expand and become brighter and more beautiful and more loving. And guess what? I am a part of that whole. So as I give to Julie, I am going to inevitably receive. It's going to come back to me. It may come from over here. It may come from somewhere else. But the collective consciousness of oneness begins to expand, and then I am benefited. But don't give to get it. Just give because it's organically who you are. You were created in the image and after the likeness of love, of service, of kindness, of compassion. And when you're not giving these things, you are actually serving as a block to those things making their way to you. Yes? Someone in this room right now is hurting. Someone in this room right now feels alone and is afraid. And as I make a difference to that one person, I'm making a difference to the whole. And I am part of the whole. The water raises in the harbor for all the boats. The world's a brighter, more beautiful place. Modern research absolutely supports what spiritual traditions have known forever and ever. So put religion on the shelf for just a second. helping us know the tangible benefits of service for mental and physical well-being. Anybody ever heard of the happiness trifecta? Chemicals that our body produces. You know what the happiness trifecta is? It's oxytocin, serotonin, and dopamine. And your body, the minute you are in the exchange of energy with love with somebody else, love for somebody else, your body is now producing these things. So studies show, science has shown that acts of kindness will lower your blood pressure. Probably as well, if not better, than a pill that you're going to get. No, I just want a pill, and I want to just remain in my little environment. It will lower your blood pressure. It will reduce your stress. I lived in stress in my teens. Anxiety and ulcers, night terrors, in the therapist's office, in the psychologist's office, because I was torn up. I didn't need any of those doctors when I got into serving a child. All of the anxiety dissipated. It went away because I was now producing oxytocin, serotonin, and dopamine naturally. I became happier as a natural byproduct of just being organically who I was designed to be as a God expression by serving you and loving you. Chemicals that lift our mood and create a sense of connection, which I call is heaven on earth. How many people, if you could boil down what we're all seeking for, the Baptists down the street, the Muslims that are meeting today, the Jews that met yesterday, they're all seeking one thing. What is it? What are we all seeking? Call it out. Happiness, love, connection. Give her a lollipop. We have a winner. Come on down. You're the next contestant on the love connection. We're all just seeking to be connected. Yes? And when we feel that connection, who we are organically begins to happen unless we let the monkey mind and the ego get in the way. Let me tell you, the monkey mind is running rampant. Did you see on the news that a bunch of monkeys got loose in South Carolina? Let me tell you, there's a bunch of monkeys loose in our head. There's a bunch of monkeys loose in our consciousness. The monkey mind has gone crazy because I've made you the other. I've said you are the other, you are the enemy, because you think differently than I do. I'm saying we need a good hit of oxytocin, dopamine, and serotonin. And how do you get that? Go do something nice for somebody. And then that which suddenly bothered you yesterday doesn't bother you so much anymore. That which yesterday was making you so angry and upset seems so meaningless. It is not only a remedy for us individually, it is a remedy for the whole. I want you to feel that. That sense of connection is vital to our existence, and I believe it is as vital right now as food and shelter. On that hierarchy of needs, the need for connection is as high as food and shelter right now. Let's go ahead and, I've got a quote here. All right, here it is. Let's put the Dalai Lama quote up there. This is from the Dalai Lama, smarter than me, together. Love and compassion are necessities, not luxuries. Without them, humanity cannot survive. Breathe that in. That's what we need. The universe is screaming from the inside out and from the outside in. We just need to remember we belong to each other. We will not survive as a country. We will not survive as a church. We will not survive as a human race unless we can understand that there is a natural organic process of serving each other that has been ignored. We are wired. Ask Ray Braden. We are wired for connection. We are wired for empathy and for caring and for reaching out to others. And in this awareness, I want you to hear this clearly. Service isn't just a path to get home, to walk each other home. Service becomes home itself. Service is not just a method to get to home and to oneness. Service is the very essence and experience of oneness itself. It's not a path to get to God. It's a path to know God right where you are. So we're only one breath, we're one moment, we're one sharing away from that truth that we're all seeking. And we're looking out here. It reminds me of the fish that we all had heard about this great thing called water. And they used to gather together in their fish churches. And they would talk and philosophize about this amazing thing called water. And they would pull out the ancient scripts and books and they would read about this thing called water. And they would chant together, Om water, Om water. And they'd swim east and west and north and south and up and down looking for water. when it was right there in the midst of them. That's what service is. You want to find God, go do something for somebody else and help them find light. Help them find love. We're living in and breathing as the energy of God itself right now. Yes? Contrary to the ego's perspective, I have really found, and it didn't make sense to my human mind, that service did not drain me. It did not drain my resources. It did not drain my time. Anybody have this experience ever? It's like, oh, I've got to go serve somebody. I don't have enough time today. I don't have enough time to get into service. I can't do that. And I go serve, and I find that I seem to have gotten 3 or 4 more hours today. That doesn't make any sense. But when I serve, suddenly the anxiety goes away, and I find there's enough time to get done what I need to get done for myself as well as others. Anybody else ever find that? We have limited the universe and we have limited God by saying there isn't enough time, there isn't enough money, there isn't enough energy. Stop playing small. That's the message today. There is enough, and there will be more than enough, overflowing, pressed down, shaken together, if we give it away. There's an endless supply, an endless font of goodness, and the more you give, the more you are going to receive. In this divided world, we find ourselves really, really divided. And I have this vision that I want you to hold with me. That story I told at the beginning about the starfish. I have to believe with my whole heart that the rest of that story applies. The little girl picked it up, smiled at the old man, threw it, and said, I made a difference to that one. She goes walking down the beach, continuing to do her work, and the old guy's going to walk this way. And he's going to stop. And a seed was planted. I am someone. I made a difference to that one. I believe that with my whole heart because kindness is contagious. Love is infectious. But I want to clearly say, Jesus would be laughing at us. You're kind to your friends. You're friendly with your friends. Whoop-de-doo. That's a paraphrase of Jesus. You're no better than the Pharisees. You're loving to those who love you. You're no better than the tax collectors. What did he say? Love your enemies. And in Unity we say you have no enemies except here. You've made the enemies. He says, go love those people that persecute you. Love anyway. And that makes the human ego throw a tantrum. And right now, the human ego is throwing a lot of tantrums because we're afraid. We are scared, we are afraid, we are angry. I have to believe that the old codger consciousness that is going the other way is going to stop at some point if I plant enough seeds, if I show enough kindness, and I let love overpower the darkness. You know, Martin Luther King said it clearly, darkness cannot overcome darkness. Only light can do that. But I want my darkness. I want to be justified in my darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot overcome hate. Only love can do that. So I'm saying go love somebody that you have made your enemy. Go serve somebody. And know that there is a ripple effect. People are watching. You know what the effect you have when you do an act of kindness? Let's say Linda does something nice to me. There are 200 people watching what Linda is doing that she will never meet. But they're going to have a hit of oxytocin, serotonin, and dopamine. And somewhere in their heart, they're going to say, I want what she has. I want what she has. You want to save the world? Be aware of the people watching you. Be aware of the difference you're making, not just with one person, but with the entire human race that needs to see and to know because they have forgotten that we belong to each other. And then God happens over here, and God happens over there, and starfishes are being thrown into the ocean in the most beautiful, tremendous way by people you will never have met, by people you will have never known. Do you believe this? No, it's just easier to be angry. I'm going to be angry and I'm going to be afraid. And our principles then are thrown out the door. As you think, so shall it be. As you are feeling, so shall it be. As you are demonstrating with your speech and your thoughts and your feelings, so shall it be. Is that what you want to create? More anger? more hate, more divisiveness? I don't. So let me go show somebody. Let not one person leave my field and my experience with them in a relationship nothing but happier, nothing but more connected, nothing but more light-filled. That gives me joy. What gives me joy is knowing I affected my family by serving a bunch of children. My parents never met most of those kids, yet they benefited from it. And the consciousness was raised. That makes me happy. That gives me all kinds of hit of serotonin and dopamine. It gives me joy. Next quote, please. Let's read this one. And Diane Glenn had this on her office for a very long time. She lives it. She breathes it. And when she was down and she was frustrated, it happens with executive directors and the business of a church. But she had this, and I know she came in every day and she read this quote. Let's read it together. I slept and dreamt that life was joy. I awoke and saw that life was service. I acted, and behold, service was joy. Could it be that our words are cheap, talk is cheap, and that our demonstration is what the world needs right now? We can talk, and we can call these people out. You need to be more kind. You need to be more loving. You need to change. You need to shift. I'm saying be the change you want to see and just act. Stop talking about it. Stop talking about the light. Stop talking about the Christ and start being the Christ. Stop talking about the Buddha and be the Buddha. And in that, you will find a joy that is far more tremendous than anything you have ever known. Stop talking about God and be God in form through your hands and your feet. Give your prayers feet and hands. Give your theology a pair of overalls and work gloves and get busy demonstrating. And those people that you wish would change, they're watching. And there is a collective energy, a collective vibration that is forever changing the whole. And they will be infected. Vibrations change without you having to attack or get in the face of somebody who's not behaving. And when it comes to religion, service then becomes the sanctuary. I found more God in serving the children that had been thrown away than I ever did in any sanctuary. And what I found is that perhaps their service to me in return was I realized I wasn't a throwaway person either, but that I was necessary and important. Everybody got a hit of dopamine. Everybody began to realize there's more to life than just being right. There's more to life than just surviving and taking care of your own. Service becomes the sacrament. Service becomes the communion. Service becomes the ritual. And service becomes the path to home. The realization that we are home. I am home. Say that with me. I am. And you want to anchor home every single day? I invite you to think of something right now that you can do today for one other person. It becomes the avenue leading us away from the culture of me, 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 me. And let me tell you, I'm kind of tired of the culture of me, 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 me. That's what we're living in. And I laughed at myself as I prepared for the message because I remembered the old kids' song, when you take their toes, and this little piggy went wee, all the way home. Well, I'm calling us out to be little piggies who are going wee, all the way to home, and there is joy in that. Doesn't wee sound like joy? It's a simple shift from me to we that this church is committing to. I hope you will come and take a look at our new mission statement that's coming down the pike any day now. During the month of December in Advent, we're making the journey from me to we. Other people in the world might not be doing that. They may not be ready, but we're going to be a beacon that shines that light. We're going to be the beacon that leads the way by our actions. We're not going to close our doors when we're afraid. We're not going to close our doors when we don't agree and we disagree. We're going to open the doors. Somebody once said, I'd rather stand inside the church and kick the doors open than stand outside the church and beat the doors open. I want to get inside and infiltrate and infect this congregation in such a way that when somebody asks you, what church do you go to? I go to Unity North. I want a little piece of that because you seem so kind and you seem so loving. The greatest challenges that the world faces today are the division. political, social, economic, religious, and cultural divisions. Wouldn't you agree? Service is the bridge that has been torn down that needs to be rebuilt. Service to each other is the bridge that we're going to build. When we serve others, especially those who are different from us, we learn to see they are not our enemies. I have no enemies. If you want an enemy, keep calling him your enemy. You want somebody against you, keep making yourself against them. Could it be that love is more powerful? That's not easy. My mind is going to go, yeah, but they, yeah, but this, yeah, but that. I don't want to live in yeah, but I want to live in love because that's organically who I am. And I'm calling us as a community to live in love in such a way that Jesus doesn't go whoop-de-doo, but he goes, job well done, good and faithful servant. That when I meet the Buddha at some point, the Buddha says, you got it. You didn't divide, you united. And I'm going to be so bold, and this may be taken in the wrong way. Michelle Obama said, when they go low, we go high. I don't want to make that about politics. I want to make that about individuals. I want to make that about the people in your life. When they're vibrating here, you vibrate here. When they're vibrating in hate and anger and despair, and believe me, that's in our government right now on all sides of an aisle. When hate is there, I will go high. I will serve. Serve my enemies? Do something kind for my enemies? Or how about just serve, period, and not make an enemy? And there is nothing easy about this. Breathe. There's nothing easy about it. But I found that it healed. Love heals. Service heals. Never, ever underestimate the power of a kind word. I'm not talking about signing up to give hours upon hours upon hours upon days of service to humanity. I'm asking you to cultivate a consciousness that wherever you are, I'm going to invite the band to come up. Wherever you are and whoever you happen to be with at any given moment, that the questions in your mind is, how can I make a difference to this one person? Because they are someone. Maybe there's someone who is forgotten. Maybe there's somebody who is lost. Doesn't mean to sign up for the food drive or for Family Promise, although I think you should do that because you're going to get a really good serotonin hit there. I'm asking you to, wherever you happen to be at any given moment, to ask the question, how can I contribute to one person feeling more supported, more loved, more valued, more appreciated, more respected, and more seen? That's what we need. How can I be the conduit for connection? How can I be the conduit for a greater connection here, even when it is difficult and it is dark and I'm afraid? Those are the questions we need to be asking to make the journey from me to we, all the way home. How can I contribute to one person's life? How can I be the one, whether I'm walking that way or this way, that says, I made a difference to that one? Thank you, God, for the blessed opportunity that I had something to give to that one. And then that one becomes that one, and becomes that one, becomes that one. And somehow we make our way home, remembering we belong to each other. And the vibration rises not just in your consciousness, but in the people that you are infecting. Take a deep breath with me. We're going to go into meditation. I'm going to leave you with a final quote from Mother Teresa. Let's go ahead and put that up there. Let's take this into our meditation. Together we read, spread love everywhere you go. Let no one ever come to you without leaving happier. Mother Teresa also said, you're going to build something and people will destroy it. They'll tear it down 2 minutes after you made it. Build it anyway. You're going to love and somebody's going to stomp on your love and not want it and not receive it. Love anyway. You're going to give kindness and somebody will call you a name. Somebody will say that they're going to find a way for you to be different than you are, that you don't belong. Be kind anyway, because kindness is more powerful than hate. Love is more powerful than division. We have to know that, or Otherwise, why are we here? When you're on your knees this week, find a child to hug. Find a child to love. And remind them they are necessary. They are important. And then notice as you skip down the street, feeling a little bit lighter, a little bit more healed, a little bit more aware.